This episode is going to be based on a conversation that a lot of women in my world right now are having, whether it's my friends reaching out and having these conversations, my clients, and also myself with my own partner. And that is whether we want to have babies, whether we want to become mothers, and the fear of missing our chance in doing that. It's quite an unsettling space to be, and it doesn't even matter how old you are. I have clients that are 25 having these fears, or maybe you're in your 40s and you're fearing that you've missed your chance and now you're riddled with guilt and regret. For me, that alarm clock started ringing when I turned 35 this year. But there's a danger in really giving in to these biological clock fears. So if you feel like you are in a state of panic, anxiety, doubt, uncertainty, fear, then this episode is for you. Today, we're going to have a different conversation to the ones that I have found on the internet, mostly done by men, that is instilling that fear within us women that we're going to miss our chance. I want this episode to empower you to feel more at peace, more in control, more secure, regardless of whether your path involves motherhood or not. I'm going to come at this conversation from an attachment style lens. And because our worth is not tied to a biological clock, we are more than that. So I really hope that this episode lifts you, inspires you, empowers you in this quite triggering conversation. And on that note, if you are in a space of feeling very sensitive and triggered when it comes to babies and biological clocks, then maybe now is not the time to listen to this episode. Regulate your nervous system and come back and join us. But if you are feeling anxious about this, there's a reason. So let's talk about it in this episode all about babies and biological clocks. Welcome to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I'm Sammy, a certified breakup and relationship coach, attachment specialist, former love addict, and spiritual junkie. This podcast is for you, the hopeless romantic who loves to love, and a safe space for us to explore and heal our attachment trauma, broken hearts, and love addictions. Together, we are on a mission to become the love of our own lives so we can have successful, healthy, secure relationships with others. So if you're ready to create a life and love beyond your wildest desires, you're in the right place. Your journey towards becoming more secure in love and life starts now. Hello, my beautiful secure lovers. Welcome back to the Relationship Rehab Podcast and channel. I am Samantha, your attachment trauma specialist and relationship coach. And today we are diving into a really important, sensitive, somewhat triggering, but essential conversation that a lot of women have in their lives. And that is around whether they want to become mothers, babies, and that biological clock that is hanging over our head and ticking away. Before we get into that episode, though, just a cheeky little life update. If you're listening to this in real time, I am traveling through Nepal. I am now in a place called Pokhara, which is so beautiful, right by this gorgeous lake with view of the Himalayan mountains. I just absolutely love the energy of this place. Put it on the bucket list if you have not done so already. And in a few days' time, I'm going to be going into my yoga teacher training school, which is super exciting, hence why I'm recording this episode in advance. So I will be in the school as you're listening to this, and honestly giving myself some space and time to start to ask myself those really important life questions that we tend to ask ourselves when we hit a certain age. And one of them is, what's the deal with motherhood? Do I want to have these babies? Do I not? If I do, then what do I need to start doing, stop doing? And just having an overall conversation with yourself, with others maybe, without being too influenced, because this is your decision, and really understanding where you stand on this topic. So giving myself all the space to be able to do that for myself while I'm in my yoga school. And I really did want to come on here and have this conversation before I do. I felt called to do it because I put a post up on my Instagram a week or so ago about things that I'm not ashamed to admit now that I'm 35 and I'm a digital nomad. As you all know, I've been a relationship coach now for nearly 5 years, loving my career choice, my business. But I'm coming to a space in my life right now where I don't know if I want to do this digital nomading anymore. I feel like I'm getting into a chapter of my life. I don't ever want to say I'm getting old because that's not the issue here. I'm getting into a chapter of my life where I feel like I am being called, that I want to, that I desire to settle. I want to have a home. I want to have a cat and a dog and a place that call my own. Not that I don't like traveling anymore. I still love it so much and it will always be a part of my life. But I do want to become a mother. I do want to have children. And now I'm at the age of 35. I need to lean into this and take it a little bit more seriously, but also not to the point where I am putting myself in such a panic stricken space and I'm feeling overwhelmed with anxiety and fear that I'm going to miss out, because that's just not an empowering place to be. And that's not how I choose to live my life in this space. So, this is why I wanted to come on here, just to offer an alternative podcast episode, if you will, a conversation, because I was out there online looking for podcasts and YouTube videos to see if I can resonate with some people out there talking about this conversation. Honestly, the people that I found speaking about this were mostly men. And I did start listening to this episode. I won't say who it is because I do have a lot of respect for this relationship coach, creator, whatever he wants to call himself. And he was speaking about women and the biological clock and having babies. And what he said was quite triggering. Like, this is a sensitive topic for us ladies. And I remember listening to it, feeling that body sensation of anxiety coming on and having to click off the episode because he was almost instilling this fear of, like, if you don't do something now, you are going to regret it. And now I'm working with women who are like beside themselves with grief. And I'm like, no, 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 not subscribing to this. Absolutely not. I get why he was doing it. And I get why a lot of men out there are having these conversations about women. Jordan Peterson is a clear example of that. I get it. They don't want us to miss our chance if this is something that we really want. They do want us to stop chasing those emotionally unavailable boys and start choosing emotionally available men who can show up as father figures. I get it. But when you are anxiously attached or sensitive in any way, or just a woman, these can be very triggering conversations. So I just want to pause for a moment and I want you to check in with yourself. I want to invite you to do this. If you are feeling like you're in a space of overwhelming fear, anxiety, and panic around motherhood, your biological clock, and having babies, I will invite you to just come back to this episode when you're feeling a little bit more grounded and regulated. But if you're feeling that low level anxiety, it's tolerable, you have the capacity, then stick with me and have this conversation. And that's what it is. I want to invite you to use the comment section of the podcast and the YouTube channel to have these conversations. Let me know how you're feeling about this. If you have any insights or perspectives that might be helpful and useful and empowering for us ladies and not keeping us stuck and trapped in this space of feeling afraid of missing our chance. So now that I've set the scene, I've set the rules of what this is all about and what's acceptable and what's not, let's get going with this conversation. So if we look at the context of what it means to be a mother and motherhood as a societal narrative, it's pretty much steeped in fear. In history, women's one and only purpose in the world was to breed, was to procreate. Unfortunately, they were seen as secondary citizens in society, and their only meaning was to have babies, to take care of those babies, take care of their man as they're going out to work. A lot of women are still subscribing to that narrative, which was wonderful, but we are living in a more modern society now where women are choosing to be child child free, are choosing to focus on their career instead of becoming a mother, or they are choosing to do both, to have a career and to become a mother and to be able to balance that within their lives as well. So when we look at the term biological clock, I mean, it says a lot about what it actually means, which is it's about our biological, our physiological state of giving birth to a child. But I have to question if it goes beyond that. And I believe that it does. It's all about that deep psychological and societal conditioning that we have all received as a women. I know for sure in my story, growing up in a small town in the Welsh Valleys, your value, if you will, purpose is to have children. And I really don't know anybody from my school years, from my class, from my friends outside of school, university, that doesn't have children. I feel like I'm the only one that doesn't have children yet. And there's comments being made sometimes, especially from the older generation. My grandmother, bless her, will sometimes make comments as I'm coming home to visit or on the phone, and she's like, "Oh, I wish that you'd settle down and have babies already. You don't know what it's like to have babies. They bring such joy. I don't want you to be lonely as you grow older. You'll regret it." And again, when we are fed these types of stories and narratives, whether they're coming from family members or media, knowing that they have our best interests at heart, but also not subscribing. Just because they're saying it does not mean that you need to now believe it. And that goes for everything that anybody will say. Anybody will say anything to you coming from their perspective, coming from their stories, their narratives, their experiences. And it's up to us to really develop a strong filter of what we believe is relevant for us and what is not, and being able to sift that through as well. But I know for me, when I receive these types of comments and narratives and I am not in the best place, it can really give me chronic anxiety. Because yes, I do want to become a mother, and yes, I am getting older. I'm becoming 35, and I honestly, if I am going to be honest, I don't ever feel like I'm ready. Even though I am on one hand, but there's almost like this, but I don't think I am. I don't think I'm ready to give up the life that I lead and be able to move into a different chapter quite yet. And this has been my narrative all through my 20s. Kind of made a little promise to myself that I will not become a mother in my 20s because I really did want to enjoy my life. And that was a story that I had around having babies, that they were almost like some sort of ball and chain. And if I was to have babies, my life is over, and it's all about the child. It's all about being a servant to that child and not having my life back until they're 18 and moved out of the house. It's changing for me now as I'm getting into my 30s, and I am seeing them as a source of joy. But I also promise myself I do not want to be that woman who is beside herself with fear and anxiety. And I know it goes deeper than this, but sometimes it really does come down to just making that choice for yourself. Making that choice that your life is far too precious and valuable to be wasting the time that you have on this earth worrying about whether you're going to have children or not. And also recognizing that my worth as a woman is far beyond my reproductive organs. Like I said, going back to those historical and societal conditionings, our value and our worth was placed on whether we became a mother or not. So take all of this into consideration when you are feeling all those heavy emotive feelings coming up, that maybe yes, we can acknowledge that we want to be a mother and we want to have children, but how much of that weight of that anxiety, of that fear, is actually coming from outside of us, is actually coming from other people and society as a whole. And I know for me that this really complicated the process that I went through in figuring out if I did want to become a mother, if I was ready to become a mother, because I understood that we were having a lot of external narratives coming through. So I want to invite you, as you are maybe having this conversation with yourself or your friends and family and making this decision for yourself to just understand what's yours and what's not. And also, something else to just be aware of is that we are operating with these outdated systems in a modern society. Nowadays, it is becoming more normalized to have children at a later age. Honestly, I had this feeling that I was going to be a quote unquote older mother because for me, it made total sense. In my social work days, I was watching kids having kids very young. And yes, okay, they biologically were ready to have children, but my goodness, were they not emotionally? They were not financially, they were not intellectually. And that's not a judgment on young mothers whatsoever, but it is just observations that I had and a decision that I made for myself that I did not want to did not want to have that for myself. I wanted to experience life for myself first and become an older mother. I believed, and again, this is all my stories and narratives, that older mother had more patience and had more space for children. And this goes from my mother's experience. She had me and my two brothers below me in her 20s, and she talked to me about the struggles and the suffering that she went through becoming a mother in her 20s. And it's just interesting how that influenced the way that I then started to see motherhood. And then she had another brother of mine when she was 42. 42, she had my brother, and she compares the different experiences, and she will say hands down that becoming a mother of 42 was a lot better. Again, I am aware that this is all influencing my experience as well, but it's also just giving me a sigh of relief that a lot of people have written us women off as soon as we turn 30, that we're no longer of use when it comes to procreation. But actually, when you think about it, when we balance the books a little bit, there are women out there, my own mother included, that are having babies in their 40s. We can see this in the celebrity world. I think Cameron Diaz just had a baby in her 50s. I might be wrong, it might be late 40s, but she's definitely not in her 20s or 30s. So if we are going to subscribe to these fear-based narratives and stories about time running out, let's balance the books a little bit and start to subscribe to other types of stories that empower us, that give us some relief from the anxiety and the fear that it is possible, and it really is possible, to become a mother in our later ages. And maybe this doesn't even need to be biologically a mother. A lot of people are opting to adopt these days. I know I had a friend a few years ago who made the conscious choice that she wanted to become a mother, but she didn't want to be pregnant. And she has now adopted two children with her partner. So we have more choice as women these days of what we want to do with our bodies. They are no longer controlled by men and outward society. We can choose to not have children and still live a very fulfilling life. If anything, there is a lot of evidence and studies right now that child-free unmarried women are actually more happier and they live longer. If you're curious, it's out there somewhere, the research. If I can find it, I will tag it in the show notes below. But the evidence is out there. And this is not trying to generalize people's experiences. It's just research that I found that is out there. And again, sometimes we find the evidence that we want to be able to create relief, right? But let's come back to the reality of the situation that we're dealing with here. And that is, if we do want children, if we do want a husband and all of that as well, because that's another option women have, is to have children by themselves without the husband. I personally don't choose that. I wouldn't want to be a single mother. I don't think that's the path for me. But a lot of women are. A lot of women are feeling very empowered in that choice, and that's amazing. But the truth is, we have options now. Freezing our eggs, another one. So many. But the pressure still lingers. So let's talk to it. Okay, we want to be a mother. We want to have children. Yes, the reality is that we do need to start leading with that choice that we're making for ourselves and putting things in place to be able to support us in order to venture down that path. Now, if we are making this decision that we want children, we might find ourselves in our 30s or maybe late 20s or early 40s. There are two paths here that we can choose. So we're making the decision. We can either have a fearful response to this, and that puts us in a disempowered state, or we can have an empowered response to this and see this from a secure state. And I'm going to give you an insight into what do these two paths look like, and it is up to you then to make that decision and choice for yourself, because going to be honest again, and personally, I don't believe keeping ourselves in a state of fear and anxiety is going to quicken the process. I really don't. If anything, it can create even more danger of falling into the arms of the wrong man and eventually becoming a single mother, because we have led from that fearful, desperate state, leading into overfixation, where we're just consumed, overwhelmed with thoughts of not becoming a mother rather than becoming a mother. Because sometimes we can stick to those narratives that we will be alone forever, that we'll never become a mother, that we'll never find our person. Again, let's balance it out. Let's start to envision a life for ourselves where we are becoming a mother, we are finding our person and having the life of our dreams, because it is totally possible, but much harder if we are operating from that fearful state, that survival state that we can get into when we are dysregulated. So watch what you're consuming first and foremost. Is what you're consuming about this topic putting you in a dysregulated state in your nervous system? Because that is how you're going to make your decisions. We want to keep grounded, we want to keep calm, and we want to keep empowered, therefore secure within ourselves, so we can make our decisions from that space. Okay. So this is the danger of getting caught up in that fearful response and narrative and state. We might end up settling for a partner that is not right for us just to have a child. Again, I've seen this a lot, where people really want children. They'll choose someone and they'll say, he'll be fine. And then later down the line, it's not compatible, or this person ends up walking away when things get a little bit more serious. And you end up either literally being a single mother, or being a single mother in a marriage where you've chosen a person that is not equipped for the job as being a father. And the partner that we're choosing around this time in our lives, if we want children, is the most crucial decision of all. The father of our children. And if you have a absent or emotionally unavailable or dismissive father in some way that has caused a bit of attachment trauma, we know what the results can be. This is a very important decision, and one that cannot be rushed. It cannot. Personally, I would rather not have children than choose the wrong man to have children with. Just saying. We might choose someone that we believe is perfect as a father, but maybe not perfect for us to be a husband. So we settle and we have children with this person, but we're not happy. And then we have realized that we have made a choice based off of this fearful response, choosing this man. Yes, he's a great dad, but I am now deeply unhappy and unfulfilled in this marriage, in this chapter of my life of being a mom. Yes, I've gotten my children, but then we realize in that moment that children are not the source of our happiness. We put all our eggs in that basket, hoping that this will solve all our problems. And now we're realizing that it doesn't. We might be feeling so desperate and anxious and engulfed by the pressure that is completely ruining our lives in the present moment. And again, doesn't really, no matter how much we worry about something, it doesn't change the course of the thing that we want to work in our favor. If anything, it makes it worse, because now we're operating from this space, and we might end up completely losing sight of our own personal values and relationship standards. and how we want to live our lives, like this decision, this choice is the be all and end all and everything that we're working towards, that everything else just kind of falls to the side. Instead, we can choose an empowered response coming from a secure state. And what this looks like is using this awareness as motivation to make intentional choices. So for me, turning 35, I want children in my near future. Now I'm using this as information to empower myself in my relationship. Thinking of my relationship, my partner that I have right now, is he somebody that I want to have children with? Is he somebody that is going to be long term? And we all need to start asking ourselves these questions when we reach an age. And it doesn't matter what that age is, it all matters when you feel this coming on for you. We need to start dating differently. Maybe you noticed in your 20s that you dated for fun, for casual hookups, for the now, for the short term. It's okay for now. And we reach a certain age when we want children and we realize that we can't be dating from that space anymore. We do need to actually start dating from a space of long-term commitment, of choosing someone who we can do life with, have children with. We may then start to have these conversations a lot sooner than we would before. Very important conversations about whether you want to have children. If we were to have children, how would they be raised? Are you aligned spiritually? Are you aligned in terms of where you want to live, how you want to live your lives? Well, how you're going to spend the weekends? It might seem very superficial conversations and questions, but actually these are the things that make or break people that become parents. How are you going to manage your money? So these can be quite intense, serious conversations that we're not used to having in our 20s, that we do need to start having the courage and confidence to start having now in our 30s, in our 40s or late 20s. We may find ourselves no longer entertaining misaligned or emotionally unavailable partners, which is great. We don't have time to waste anymore on this guy that's not showing up for us, who's breadcrumbing us, who's love bombing us. We're ready for something more stable. We're ready for something more secure, healthy. I'm not playing around anymore. I'm not mucking about. So now we're leaning into this space, which can be very empowering and leading from that secure space. We're now starting to date with clarity, with purpose, with boundaries. We know exactly what we're looking for. We know what our values are. And we're really feeling amazing that we are going to attract this person in our lives. And we are going to create this beautiful life together and have these children together. Or maybe as a single woman, if you find yourself in your sacred single era, you're not dating, you don't want to date, you don't want to be in a relationship, that's amazing. How do you feel about that? If you feel empowered, maybe you're exploring those alternative options that we spoke about previously, of egg freezing, of solo parenting, and so on. Now, I will say, when we're choosing the path of being empowered and in this secure state, there does need to be an element of surrender. So what we typically do as anxiously attached hearts is we try to manipulate, control, and fix everything. And we do this because it gives us the illusion of being safe. Especially if we're high achieving, we're so used to getting what we want and achieving what we want. But maybe we're finding in our love life that it's just not quite as simple as that. There are other people involved, there's attachment trauma involved, and this may take some more time, some more patience, some more effort in being able to achieve what you want, because I do believe it is absolutely, you are able to do so. But it's all about getting honest with yourself about your previous patterns, taking accountability for where you are right now, and seeing if anything needs to happen for you to move towards your goals of becoming a mother, becoming a wife. What needs to fill in that gap? Maybe you need external support to help you with that, to shift that attachment trauma that keeps you stuck in those cycles of attracting avoidant men. But back to the topic of surrender, it might feel very uncomfortable to surrender this. And to surrender something doesn't mean to give up. It doesn't mean to not do anything and just sit and wait. That's not what surrender means. Surrender means taking aligned action, putting things in place that move you towards where you want to be, but having that deeper spiritual understanding that not everything is in your control and you are a co-creator in this life, that you can only do so much, and you can ask spirit, God, universe to meet you halfway, to support you, because everything is always working in your favor, and surrendering the outcome. So I'm putting all this aligned action in place. I feel good about this. I'm on my path. It is about the journey. It is about the process. I am surrendering the destination, the outcome to this. That is God's business, and I know that He is in alignment with my higher self, and everything is working in my favor in this way. I also just want to spend a few minutes talking to the women that may find themselves in a space where biologically they are realizing that the opportunity to become a mother biologically may not be an option anymore. If you are in this space and you are in a space of grieving, of feeling regretful, of feeling despair, I've had women, clients included, in this space that have warned me to take action now. And again, if you are that person talking to younger women, be very careful with your words. This is a very sensitive and triggering conversation and topic. And I get it. You don't want anyone to feel any pain that you may be feeling, any regret and suffering. I want to talk to that because, again, when we are in a space of regretting something, of wishing that we did something differently, we're living in the past. We are not accepting what has unfolded, the decision that we may have consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously made for our lives, or didn't make at all, and now we're wishing we could go back in time, and that keeps us stuck in this loop of past narratives. And the reality is that we cannot go back to the past, and that can be a tough and hard pill to swallow. So I want to invite you, if you are in this space of wishing that you took having babies and children more serious, again, noting that there are still options available for you out there, that to work on coming to a state of acceptance. Your life and time is far too precious to be ruminating over regret. It really is. And how can you work towards becoming into that state of acceptance and letting go, and knowing that your life, you as a woman, has far more value. You are far more than your reproductive organs. Your life still gets to be incredible, amazing, fulfilling without children. I feel like women put so much pressure on other women to have children, that this is the be all and end all. And for some women it is, and I get that. But there is more to life than children. A lot of women will argue that. So if you're in a space of anxiety, fear, and panic about the biological clock, I really hope this episode has supported you to rewrite the narrative and be able to be in that empowered, secure space rather than the fearful, anxious one. And that is that you are more than your reproductive organs, that your ability to mother is not dictated by a biological clock. You can still become a mother in your early 40s, maybe even late 40s. Things are changing in our society. Knowing that we have options now as women, and the best decisions with anything, especially when it comes to motherhood and choosing a partner, comes from a regulated nervous system, not a panicked state. And know that you are still in control of your path, and there are many different ways to create a fulfilling life. Now, if you are in this space of feeling empowered, you want to have children like myself, you want to get that partner to have that life with, and you want to put things in place to make sure that you are putting yourself in the best place possible to attract that, to create that, but you know that there is still anxious attachment patterns and styles and trauma, maybe fearful avoidant attachment there as well that needs to be healed. Your nervous system needs some support in being regulated. Maybe you're observing that I need some support in setting boundaries and developing confidence in my dating, in being able to speak my truth, my authenticity, to be more attuned with myself, all that amazing goodness as what it makes, of what it means to be securely attached. I would love to invite you to explore my brand new online program called Securely Attached. This is for high achieving women with anxious hearts who do want to be able to achieve their goals, whatever that is, becoming a mother, a wife, or just having a more fulfilling life and love life and relationship. This is everything that you need to become securely attached. So this is something that is your goal for 2025, and you're at an age where you're ready to make different choices, different decisions, different narratives and perspectives, then please go ahead and check out Securely Attached. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. It's going to be sammyreedcoaching.com/securely attached. It is an online course combined with coaching calls to give you the absolute best chance and opportunity to achieve your love life goals. I have based my method and my program on working with hundreds of women and also men one-on-one and seeing incredible life transforming results in their lives. And I'm really excited to be able to work with you on being able to achieve your goals as well. So whether you decide to join me on that program or not, doesn't matter. I am so happy that you are here having this conversation with me. Like I said, drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think of the episode. And if you have any narratives and perspectives and comments and opinions on this sensitive topic, just keeping in mind that it is a sensitive topic, I would love to hear it. Thank you again so much for joining, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye, my loves. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Rehab podcast. I hope that this episode has supported you in healing, growing, and evolving out of insecure attachment and unhealthy relationship patterns and into safe, authentic love with yourself and others. If you enjoyed the episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would just take a second to rate and review this podcast. Every rating and review from you guys counts, as it really helps this podcast to grow so it can reach more people who need to hear this content. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take a screenshot of this podcast episode, share it on your IG stories, and tag me at the.relationship.rehab with your biggest takeaway from the episode. I really do love reading them. See you back here next week for another episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast.